Parent is critical of the Harper government's treatment of some disabled soldiers. And that report that was released earlier says, among many other things, that severely injured vets, mostly from Afghanistan or recent peacekeeping missions, do not get certain allowances, which could lead to a huge financial burden for them, especially as they hit old age. So with some reaction to this report, we have Mike Blais, president of the Canadian Veterans Advocacy Group, joining us. Good to see you, Mr. Blais. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for inviting me to speak to this issue.
What did you make of what the Ombudsman reported?
Well, you know, I attended the press conference this morning. I was very impressed, frankly, with the comprehensive nature of the presentation that Mr. Parent had provided. We've been provided the documentation. We're going through it now. It's very encouraging for us as an advocacy who have been fighting on the political level to get parliamentarians to fulfill their sacred obligation to the wounded, to have the Ombudsman Parent come out to define that the new Veterans Charter is indeed a living charter, to identify the fact that the Conservatives have not acted up to the living quotient portion of it, and that the time has come to fix this and fix it properly using the guidelines, as I understand it, with Mr. Parent's report, which at this point in time we're fully supportive of.
Right, and I can see that you are very passionate about this. This certainly hits home for you and so many, and we know that. I want to ask you, are you encouraged then that this is the report that will see real changes? Will this government be forced to make changes given what's in those pages?
Oh, well, let's be realistic here. The government does what it pleases when it pleases. And it's our duty to take this information that Ombudsman Parent has provided us as individual veterans, as presidents of Veterans Association, to ensure that this comprehensive review of the new Veterans Charter is done in good faith, that this is not a headline without substance, wherein we'll go through the motions for a couple of years, and then after the next election, it will be shelved quietly and nothing will be done. This is not acceptable. Now, he has provided a platform for all veterans, for all Canadians, for that fact, who support the wounded, to step up now and contact our MPs, because that's where change is going to happen. That's the only place change is going to happen, is when all our parliamentarians, and all of them, accept their sacred obligation to the wounded.
So that obligation means scrapping this charter, starting anew, or going back to what we had in place before?
You know, we have to deal with the reality of the situation, and the reality is that the lump sum award has been out there for 6 years, and you know, I have talked to many veterans who served in Korea, who we've encouraged to deal with their mental health issues, to go to the department, to seek help after 50 years of suffering. Well, they provided a lump sum award. They're pleased with that. It gives them end of life, you know, support. It gives them some money to do with their family. However, you know, conversely, we have young men and women who have suffered extreme sacrifice in Afghanistan. What is the solution? I would suggest harmonization. I would suggest that the lump sum award has to be raised to a realistic level, perhaps $1 million, and that veterans have an opportunity to take a choice, whether they decide whether it's a lump sum or a Pension Act payment. But that lump sum also has to include provisions for wife. That lump sum also has to have provisions for children. It must be realistic. This $280,000 is garbage. And with all due respect to the Ombudsman, raising it to $345 is not much better. The fact of the matter is, we have to speak. We have to get together. We have to provide an alternative that is acceptable to all veterans, no matter when they served. And I think with dialogue, with good faith, with a minister that's willing to engage in good faith, we can do this. We can really move forward. But, you know, and I say this, but if the government's not acting in good faith, this is just another dog and pony to deflect our efforts to seek true reform. It's not going to work. We expect Minister Fantino to step up to the table on this issue and to do what has to be done in reference to the recommendations brought forward.
So clearly you say, let's end the nickel and diming of our Canadian veterans. Is there one story?
Absolutely.
Is there one story that you can share of, you know, the predicament that some vets are in, to explain this to Canadians, just how dire the situation is for some?
You know, absolutely. And I always go back. Sergeant Juno Beach, Sergeant Panjwai Valley. They're both 25 years of age. They both got 2 kids. They both suffered catastrophic injuries. One landing on the beach, one fighting in the sands of the Panjwai. Right? They both have 100%. Sergeant Juno Beach gets a lifetime pension for life. He may live 60 years. That could equate to over $2 million through the course of time for pain and suffering. He also has provided a pension for his wife because his wife's not going anywhere. She's taking care of him. He's also provided pensions for his children, you know, supplementary for education, because they understand that the entire family unit is affected when one of Canada's sons and daughters comes back catastrophically wounded. Sergeant Panjwai Valley, he gets $280,000 and a thank you. Yes, yes, I know there are other supplementary benefits, but we're talking pain and suffering. We're talking the sacred obligation. We're talking an obligation that's not being met by this government, and until that obligation's been met, we will continue to fight. We will continue to fight for our wounded warriors and disabled veterans. We will continue to fight for our Memorial Cross recipients.
Mr. Blais, if I can ask you, I mean, you're putting this right at the feet of Minister Fantino. If the government decides not to enact some of the changes that you spoke about, because finances are a reality, what are you prepared to do?
First of all, finances and budget should never have an effect on Canada's sons and daughters that they sent to war and who have suffered extraordinary sacrifice. I mean, to even mention that word budget and deficit reduction in the same sense of their valiant sacrifice is disgusting. Period. Now, secondly, you know, we have an obligation. We can't say how much it's going to cost because we don't know how much it's going to cost. Many of the mental illnesses have not come forward yet. We've had 40,000 people who have served in Afghanistan. You know, they're saying there's less than 2,000 wounded. I'm telling you that's not true. You know, they're putting out mental health surveys saying, oh, 13.5%, 13. That's not accurate. These people are not coming forward and speaking to their mental health issues because, you know, they were going into the decade of darkness. There's cutbacks coming at DND. You step forth and say you're weak, they're going to cut you out of the loop, and they know it. So what we need is compassion, understanding, a realistic anticipation of the demand that's going to come forward, and the assets in place now so that we can stand forth as true Canadians and fulfill our obligation to those who stand on guard for thee.
All right, Mike Blais is president of the Canadian Veterans Advocacy Group. He's been joining us. We appreciate this and appreciate your time and the story that you shared. Thank you.